Hey, I'm Felissa Rose, and you're watching Keto and Crime.
Oh, y'all, I didn't want to make this video because I am a Dave Ramsey fan, but I would not be ethical or a truly objective true crimer if I didn't study everything. A lot of very disturbing things have come out about the Ramsey organization, even though I believe their mission is great and their goal of helping others with their financial, career, mental health goals is wonderful, and they do it at a very high level, and I applaud them for that. I would not be ethical or objective if I didn't cover some of the legal challenges and, in my opinion, ethical challenges and cult adjacent behavior that has come out of there in the last couple of years. And so, with that being said, I may be shooting myself in the foot for that one, but I am going to take a look at Ramsey and some of his recent shenanigans and kind of see where we're going. The only case I'm not going to touch on in this is the recent case that is coming out where he's being deposed as an attorney general in the state of Washington, is coming down on timeshare exit company, which was one of the companies that he endorsed. There's been some shenanigans with a reporter that I think assaulted him, not the other way around, because I've seen the video. That's the only case I'm not touching on because there's not a whole lot of information on that except what Ramsey has provided and what we've seen on tabloid television. So that's the reason I'm not going to cover that one. So keep that one out of your head. I think we're going to see Dave Ramsey come out on top in that one. But the two lawsuits that I'm concerning, or the two cases, were the ones over the firing of a woman because she was pregnant and unwed, and also the COVID shenanigans that he's been accused of. Those are the ones I'm going to concentrate on, and also talk about some personal experiences I've had and just some behavior that I'm noticing that could put him into the cult adjacent category. There are a lot of great people that have already done videos on that. Just Google it. I'll link one down below that's particularly good. I listen to her because she does a lot of writing content, but she done an excellent three-parter on Dave Ramsey. I couldn't do it any better, so that's why I'm not delving that deep, but I did want to offer my opinion because I have endorsed him as someone you should listen to for financial advice, and I still believe that. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Dave Ramsey, one of the most polarizing figures of our time. And really, he shouldn't be because his advice is sound. I used it. A lot of people have used it. It's a sound financial advice. Listen to Dave Ramsey. He does a great job with that. However, recently there have been a few things come forward that makes me question um, the atmosphere at his company, because has always seemed hell bent, for lack of a better term, on being voted the top place to work in America, which is a noble endeavor. But is it because he's truly the best place to work, or just because he wants it to be the best place to work? So originally there was a lawsuit filed by Caitlin O'Connor alleging she was fired for being an unwed mother, and I'll drop a few clips of my research on that here. Also, Dave Ramsey. I listen to his their podcast daily while I work. Just good inspirational stuff. Even though I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious. They do go a little heavy on the conservative Christian values, in my opinion, but that stuff's not all bad. So, huge fan. Just put it that way. Well, today, Chris Hogan is actually one of my favorite because he focuses heavy on retirement, and I got a lot of catch up to play with retirement, so I listen a lot to him. But announced this week that he has been separated from the Ramsey Solutions family. And the reason I'm covering this is because I think with the recent lawsuit that's been filed, this could potentially turn into a white-collar scandal of sorts. Now, let's break it down. Ramsey Solution is a debt, finance, personal wealth financial counseling company that provides educational resources from free via a number of different shows, podcasts, such as, well, formerly 𝗙𝗃𝗃, The Dave Ramsey Show. His daughter Rachel Cruz has one. Dr. John Delaney, who is a PhD psychotherapist, has one about personal family relationships. 𝗙𝗂𝘀𝗆 Show, which is all about job search and career improvement. They have that sort of thing. They have a couple others that are kind of geared toward young people. So a lot of Ramsey's personalities with a lot of different reach, and all that stuff's free, but they also have paid programs. They have their entree leadership, their live events. Lots of stuff's also paid. I mean, that's how they make their money. Nothing wrong with that. But they are biblically based. As I said before, when I say biblical, I mean conservative evangelical Christianity. They do not make any bones about that. That's where their stuff is based. Well, 𝗙𝗃𝗃 has recently been separated from the Ramsey Solutions business, according to our local news station here in Nashville, Tennessee, WSMV. No longer there. And it's a twofold thing. Basically, in 2018, 𝗙𝗃𝗃's then wife, Melissa J. Hogan, who's also a very popular author in the mental health and in women's empowerment space, came forward and told the leadership team at Ramsey Solutions that Chris had been unfaithful to her, even to the point he had been having an affair with another employee there. And so, because they are Christian based and they are a private company, they're not publicly traded, so they can make up their own rules as long as they're not discriminatory and employees sign a waiver saying they understand it. One of their things is no premarital or extramarital relations allowed. That the company will take very stringent actions, disciplinary actions, if that happens. Now, personally, I don't think that's a good thing, but the employees sign a contract saying they understand that. Well, evidently, instead of separating him, as they should have, to be fair across the board to all employees, they put he and his wife on a restoration plan, which included intensive couples therapy. I'm only guessing it was probably with Dr. John Delaney. I don't know, but I'm just guessing because he is a psychotherapist they have on staff. It would make sense. And as part of that, according to Melissa J. Hogan's blog post, which you can find, just Google it, she kind of let loose that it was very intrusive, that not only were they forced to go to kind of save face, to make sure that they did stay together as a couple, that they were also required to provide the most intimate details of that counseling. So Dave Ramsey knows what's going on in their home and in their bedroom. Let's just put it that way. Well, it did not work. They ended up separating and eventually divorcing. And now, 3 years later, another employee, former employee, by the name of Caitlin O'Connor, has filed a federal discrimination lawsuit against the Ramsey company, stating that after 4 years of employment, she was terminated for becoming pregnant out of wedlock. As I said, they do not allow premarital sex, extramarital affairs. Extramarital, I get. Premarital, how are they gonna know? I mean, unless you're like her that gets pregnant and does the right thing by the Christian definition and keeps the baby, and then they separate her from the company without, giving this single mother an opportunity now to provide for her baby. That's a little bit of hypocrisy right there, in my opinion. But also, if you don't get pregnant, how they gonna know? If I'm working there and I have sex out of wedlock, if I'm single and I have sex out of wedlock, they're never gonna know. Keep your mouth shut, people. But anyway, be smart about it. Anyway, so she was terminated, and she also alleges that 8 other employees were also terminated. So she's alleging discrimination based on the fact that he was a personality, and therefore they tried to save face and did not treat them all the same. Now, what's your opinion on that? Well, I think it's dirty, that they do treat people differently. But first of all, I think it's sturdy that they have such stringent control over your life, personal life. But, if you sign a contract agreeing to that, I mean, that's on you. That's Darwinism at its finest. But we also have to look at it from a real value. I mean, I don't know what these other 9 employees, Miss O'Connor plus the other 8 employees did, but I was assuming it's something lower level behind the scenes, customer service rep, producer, videographer, any number of things, salesperson, any number of things. And so if you kind of look at, and I don't know what happened to those other 8 employees, if they were all fired or they were just disciplined in some way. But, and I apologize, it's night here, so we got televisions going. But I don't know what happened to those other 8 employees. It doesn't specify just yet. But I don't think the punishment was doled out equally, but because Chris Hogan, who is a best-selling author, the number 2 rated show on the network, I'm sure he had a more higher dollar value than these other employees, and that's why he was treated differently. It happens all the time. So as far as that goes, and any of the other lawsuits pending because people were fired for having premarital sex, I mean, we all kind of know what Ramsey is. He is a evangelical Christian. He runs his company that way. And I think it's going to depend a lot on how that is positioned. Do they sign something? If they sign something, I don't think she's going to get very far with the lawsuit. However, if she didn't sign something, according to a lot of my research, she may very well have a case. So it will really depend on how that's positioned and how they come out of it. She's amended her complaint 3 or 4 times already, so now she's alleging it's discrimination based on religious and sexual, because men can hide premarital sex a lot better than females, even though Ramsey has noted that they have fired men for the same reason, not pregnancy, of course, but for premarital sex. So it would depend if she can position it like that or religion, because Ramsey just claims to be evangelical Christian. He doesn't claim to be any particular denomination, whether it's Lutheran, Catholic, what have you. So it's, I think, his brand of religion that he kind of forces everyone to live on the moral code. And as a business owner, as a private business that's not traded on the stock exchange, he may have a case there. But since then, there have been some other things that have come out, especially with the whole Chris Hogan thing. He was kept on, obviously, because he's a big money maker. No other reason. That's not atypical of companies. That's not cultish. That's just being corporate, even though Dave Ramsey claims he's not corporate. But with allegations that he has force people into potentially dangerous situations when it comes to COVID. Whatever your opinion is on masks or not, I believe people have the right to wear a mask or not wear a mask as they see fit. That's just my view on it. I choose to wear one because I would like to be safer than not be safer, but not everybody has that appeal. And I'm not here to debate the effectiveness of masks. There's a lot of conflicting information on that. But what I am here to say, if a person wants to wear a mask, they should be allowed to wear a mask. And in December, an investigation was launched saying that Ramsey not only would not allow his employees to wear masks at work or at a Christmas party, he also forbade the caterer of such party from wearing gloves or masks as not to scare anybody. And I'm going to drop that investigation here. All right, everyone, here it is. In December of this year, WSMV, which is a local station here in Nashville, Tennessee, investigated reports of a company banning masks and gloves from the caterers of their local Christmas party. And that ended up being Dave Ramsey, featured here with, I believe, the employee with his daughter Rachel at that party. And as you can see in the background, no masks. A woman who was a longtime employee of Dave Ramsey was fired when her and her husband, after attending the party, her husband did speak out loud and also post on his personal Facebook that he was fearful of the nature of how people feel about masks with the Ramsey with the Ramsey company. Basically, the party was basically masks were not welcome. He said even though that wasn't the mandate, he did ask the caterers not to wear gloves or masks, is not to frighten people because we have faith over fear, he said was the typical response, and that most of the employees were not wearing masks, if any of them were. And so he was kind of fearful of that and posted on his Facebook and also spoke up that he didn't think it was right, and his wife was fired for that. And his wife had a long-term relationship with Ramsey, was a valued employee before that. Also, once this broke, several more instances of him not allowing masks at the office, even though it wasn't a rule, but basically saying that the attitude toward masks was pretty apparent, that they had faith over fear. I guess expecting 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃, as you can see here, here's the complaint. Ask the vendors do not wear masks or gloves, asking 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃 not to allow COVID to spread. And also he forced people back into the office to work from the office rather than home at the height of the pandemic, and basically said that work from home does not work for them when it's pretty apparent with data coming in that work from home works for a great number of businesses. Now, I don't have so much of a problem of him not having a work from home policy. That is his business. He can run it as he wants, but making people that are forced to come back into work feel weird about wearing a mask, and whatever your opinion is on masks and things like that, it's still, as a libertarian, it's still an individual decision whether you wear it or whether you don't. And no business has a right to mandate that, in my opinion. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't, don't. But it should be an individual choice. Now, when it comes down to public health concerns and the government, that's a whole different thing. But when it comes down to businesses, yes, they can say we don't believe masks are effective, but I don't believe they should be allowed to make people that want to wear masks feel out of place, or vice versa. That's an individual decision. I choose to wear masks because, maybe it could stop some spittle from coming in. I have asthma, and I'm going to get my second COVID shot this week. So I believe in taking all the precautions I have because I'm high risk. I live in a family of high risk people. My mother-in-law has fibromyalgia and other things that could be aggravated by COVID, not to mention just COVID itself. We still don't know the lasting effects it could have on your brain, your body, vital organs such as your heart and your lungs. And so when I see him basically making people feel bad for wearing a mask, I have to take issue with that. And so this is just one of the cases that has recently come out over his whole attitude toward masks and COVID. So with all of that being said, I think Ramsey might be setting himself up for a fall with the COVID-based lawsuits, because I don't think that's going to fly with the majority of juries or even judges he might get, because there have been state health department mandates about that. So I think that might be the thing that unravels his belief. Yes, Tennessee is an at-will state, but there are still some parameters around that. You can't fire somebody for being part of a protected class, age, sex, handicapped, national origin, race. You can't just fire somebody for any reason. You can pretty much terminate them within reason, but you can, what that means is you can give a reason, not give a reason, or whatever, and that's fine. But if you obviously fire somebody because they're part of a federal protected class, you're in trouble, even in an at-will state. So I think most people understand that. With a lot of his comments, it seems to me that he really doesn't. So, yeah. And finally, today, with his whole stance against not wanting people to work from home, I think a video that actually dropped today on his Ramsey Clip channel kind of sums up his opinion and is actually making me believe that even though I don't think he is a full-on cult, I think he's cult adjacent. And this comes from not only all these things that we've already talked about, but also a personal experience I had with a Ramsey employee, about 5 years ago. I co-owned a company here in Nashville that was a food delivery company. I was a minority owner, 5% stake, but I also served as the operating manager. And I actually, because Ramsey's whole thing is work your way out of debt, I had a couple of Ramsey employees that worked for me, and I remember one of them very well. She was a young lady. I believe she worked in their client customer success department, but her attitude to where she worked kind of bled over into the work she did for me at night. She came off as very entitled, and I work for Dave Ramsey thrown in my face many times, and I'm like, well, I don't. What's your point? So I think there is an entitlement and a cult-like loyalty that is fostered there. And that may have been one out of the hundreds of employees that he works with, but it was very telling. And then now this video where he is talking about why 40% of Americans are about to quit their job, and this is his job specialist, Ken Coleman, who's a great guy. I like him. I liked Chris. I like Dr. John. I like Anthony O'Neill. I like all of them. And you can sometimes tell on their faces they don't always agree with what he's saying, but I agree with everything that's said in this video up until he starts talking about how work from home doesn't work. And I think that's because he has a personal bias against work from home, and I believe he believes that if his employees go home to work, he's not going to have as much control over them. And I think that is part of his plan, that if he keeps them all there, they're all going to continue on kind of that cult adjacent behavior. And so that's why he's so vehemently against work from home, because you do lose a little bit of control. But other major studies have shown that productivity have gone up, job happiness have gone up, and I think you're going to see a lot of businesses return to work from home as a staple because it has been so effective. Now, as I said, I don't have a problem with him not letting his employees work from home. I do during dangers of COVID and then not letting them wear a mask or discouraging masks on top of that. Yeah, I have a problem with that. But with everything else, it's his business. It's his prerogative. I'll let the courts decide. I still believe his advice is sound, and I encourage people to listen to him for financial advice. But I thought I would react to the last little bit of this video so that you could see it. And so let's dive in.
You have to be deeply, deeply committed to the results of hope, practical paths forward for people to turn their life around, whether it be on the Dr. John Deloney Show with your mental, emotional health, the Ken Coleman Show, turn your career around, or turn your money life around. And so when you come here, you better be missional, and you better care about the result of life change, hope, practical steps forward for people.
Well, you won't make it through the interview process, and if you did, you won't fit in.
No, if you
interview process is months long. They interview you. They interview your spouse. They want to make sure you have 100% believe in his evangelical way of Christianity before you ever get hired there. So, yeah, form your own opinions.
If you lie to us,
if you want to just collect
you
a check,
will be exposed, because this is a different.
But see, that's the thing. What's wrong with just collecting a check, Dave? As long as you're doing your job and doing it where you're taking care of customers in the company, what's wrong with not having the I'm fully drunk the Kool-Aid, fully bought in mentality? That's just, I'm not like that. I've always been a very on board type of person, whatever business I've been in. And I do, of course, prefer those people, but I also have no problem with somebody that is doing their job at a high level and then just wants to go home and get paid. I have no problem with that either, which is why I think work from home will become a staple, or people just won't work. We're seeing the effects of that. Of course, there's also the expanded unemployment benefits that are helping with that, but we're seeing the results of that. Businesses will have to change or they'll won't be here, and that includes Ramsey Solutions.
From place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking about that this morning and stuff. I mean, this is how we do things.
Yeah.
And not every.
We translate I, Dave.
Everybody needs to be a we.
That's true.
To a certain extent.
So
well,
you may, if you want to just say, well, I've got a degree in X, and so I have a talent.
Yeah.
And you should just pay me for delivering on that talent.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I hire a developer to build an app for me, and that app functions to a high level, the way I want it to function, I'm going to pay that developer irregardless of whether he believes in my mission. I mean, there are nuances to that, but overall, as long as you're performing at a high level and doing your clients and your job right, what matters if you drink the Kool-Aid? I think that's where it crosses the line into cult adjacent just a little bit.
It's not going to happen.
Nope. That's why we're getting so many developers coming.
Oh, yeah.
Because we work a developer 40 hours a week, not 80.
That's right.
And we work a developer where they're writing code doing something that matters. Yeah. And so when they...
I know a lot of developers. I work with a lot of developers. As long as they're working on, understand the project, working on an interesting project, they don't care if it's meaningful.
They woke up during the pandemic. They didn't wake up and go, I hate my job. They woke up and went, man, we've got a lot of people need our help.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so they're going, hey, I know that if I'm in here in this company coding, that it is going to be directly tied to transformation.
See, I think that's
what everybody wants, is to make a difference in their work.
So the net result will be, for the economy overall, if this transition is accurate, if this survey is accurate, will be a huge increase in productivity. Yes. Because people will leave jobs in bad situations.
We're already seeing that. A lot more productivity just because people are happier to be working from home and have already switched industries. So yes, I agree with lots of things Dave is saying here, but not all of them.
That they are not good at, that they're not passionate about, and go plug into something,
yes,
A, that they're good at, and B, they're passionate about in a better situation. Right. And they'll produce more.
Way more.
Which goods and services, yes, which will help the economy overall. So really, if everyone followed the Ken Coleman rule and got in something where their talent and their passion was aligned with what they were doing every day, then the economy would boom even more.
I highly agree with that. Yes, find your passion. Find your passion because it won't seem like work. I absolutely agree with that. But also, companies need to move and shake with the times and allowing people to work in a more comfortable atmosphere, office if they want to, house if they want to. A lot of the office pushback, go back to the office pushback, is because commercial real estate prices are falling. Let's be honest. Look at the newspapers. Residential real estate is booming, just the opposite for commercial. Even one of the sharks, Mr. Wonderful, he's getting out of commercial real estate because he sees the way it's heading. And I think a lot of this, Ramsey just invested millions of dollars into building an extra large campus here near Nashville where he's going to be housing even more employees. So, of course, he doesn't want to move to work from home because the value of that property would plummet. So there's a lot more to do with it than just productivity. But absolutely find your passion because you'll never feel like you've worked a minute. But there's also something to be said for somebody that just does a job at a high level and goes home and collects their paycheck as long as everything's taken care of.
Productivity rises and durability increases. People stay longer. Tenure. People will stay in a place where they go, my work.
Love Ken Coleman. Highly watch his show. I love his advice.
Matters. The company sees me. And Dave, you just touched on this. Underneath all of this is a massive warning to leaders and to companies that if you don't give people a connection to their work, if they can't see that you care deeply about them, because they could be in their sweet spot, talent,
and move with the times and allowing people a more flexible work environment.
Passion, mission aligned. But if you have a crappy culture, they will leave you. They will leave you, and you better have a place that is healthy, and you better have a place that is dominated by leaders who care for their people, and people feel like, hey, you see me. I'm not just doing work that matters to me, but I matter to you, because you share how we collectively, everybody at Ramsey Solutions, matters to the world out there. That's what's special about this place. And companies that don't figure this out, you're going to lose talent at an alarming rate, and the companies that figure this out, Dave, are going to explode. They're going to grow like crazy.
Yeah. And one of the things that they came to the conclusion that I disagree with was that the worker is now demanding that they work from home.
Yeah.
They are. And here's where he's going to spin it because of his personal opinion on that.
Well, those people are going to lose.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Bad idea, by the way.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
I disagree with you.
You could try that.
All of the data is in.
That's right.
And work from home doesn't equal work.
No.
I would like to see what data he's looking at, because all of the major, Google it, all of the major studies during the pandemic show that productivity has never been higher because people were working from home. So Dave, please produce that study that you're referring to. I will disagree with you on that, but I think a lot of it has to do with real estate prices and the fact that he wants everyone in the office so that he can control them, control their thinking, and kind of keep them close to him in that way. So I think they're very much cult adjacent, even if they aren't a cult. And I said this video may bite me in the butt, but I just felt, because I do study cults, I do videos on cults, I study cult-like behavior. If you hold up the Atlantic study on what makes a cult, Dave Ramsey will click off at least half of them. So that's very much cult adjacent, with their pull to control personal behavior, control people's sex lives, whether or not it's legal. Legal does not mean ethical. Yeah. So this may bite me in the butt, but I am all for still listening to Dave Ramsey and his personalities for all the great advice they give. I listen to them daily. I love Ken Coleman. I love Dr. John. I love Anthony O'Neill. I love Rachel Cruz. I think they all give great advice. I love old Dave. I mean, he makes me laugh daily. But I wouldn't be a fair true crime cult watch YouTuber if I didn't mention Ramsey Solutions. So anyway, that's my take, and I'll be back soon with another video. Until next time. 𝗙𝗀𝗀𝗃.